Hey guys, welcome back. It's Sim Rover, and it's time for a change in the videos I've been making. So as you know, I mainly do Bleach Brave Souls. That's pretty much all I do. And I decided to bring back the Narnia book. And instead of doing 3 chapters at a time, we're gonna do 1 chapter because that's more manageable for me at least to make videos. And yeah, so I'm excited. And since it's been a long time since we've done the Narnia book, so we're back in business. Here it is. And just to give a recap, and it's going to be a very brief recap. So the main characters we have are Diggory, Polly, Jadis the witch, Uncle Andrew. There's a cabbie driver and the cabbie driver's horse, Strawberry. There's Diggory's mom, who is gravely ill. She's, I think it's a terminal illness of sorts. And then he has Aunt Letty. Um, and so Uncle Andrew is the sister of Diggory's mom. And so this whole uh, first book of the Narnia series, called The Magician's Nephew, started in the London, old time London city setting. And Diggory and Polly are best friends. And then they stumble upon the attic in which Uncle Andrew has these rings that can teleport them to a different world. And so basically, Diggory and Polly end up traveling to the woods between worlds. And then they realize they can go to a different pool. So basically, Uncle Andrew was doing some research into magic of sorts, and he needed a guinea pig for it to be tested. So Polly and Diggory were the guinea pigs for that. And then they go into the woods between worlds, peaceful place. They go into it's a woods, tall trees everywhere, and then there are pools that connect to different worlds. So the kids go into a one of those pools, and it takes them to the city of Charn. And the city of Charn is an apocalyptic city, destroyed, ruins everywhere, and they stumble upon this queen who's frozen. And this queen, nearby, there's a bell and a hammer, and there's a message on it that if you hit this bell, dangerous things will happen. And so Diggory is a stupid kid, and he grabs the hammer and dings the bell, brings the queen back to life, and lo and behold, they find out she's an evil queen that was threatening the destruction of the world. And so Allied forces in the past in that world were brought together, and among those forces leading them was the sister of the witch, of the evil queen, Jadis. Her sister was fighting against Jadis, and Jadis was losing. And as she was losing, and they're about to do the final blow to her, she speaks the deplorable word, and that causes the Allied forces to completely disappear. She wins. But as a cost for speaking the deplorable word, Jadis becomes frozen. And so Diggory basically unfroze her by ringing the bell. And so, in short, Jadis tags along to Polly and Diggory accidentally whenever they touch these rings, the yellow and green rings, and it teleports them back to the woods between worlds. And they accidentally brought Jadis the witch with them, the queen. And in this woods between worlds, it weakens her, but in their stupidity, Diggory and Polly touch the rings, and in that split moment, the queen, who was weakened, touches his clothing or touches the ring, and because she's touching him, she teleports with them back to London. And in London, it causes chaos. She's causing a ruckus, and she brings Uncle Andrew along as her slave of sorts, and he kind of submits to her and does her bidding. And she gets a hold of a cabbie driver, and then everybody in London is seeing her, and she's more powerful than ever and has her powers back in the world of the living in London. And in the chaos of the cabbie driver and the horse Strawberry and Uncle Andrew and Polly and Diggory, in that chaos, um, Diggory manages to get a hold of the witch, and he touches his ring that teleports him to the woods between worlds. And in that moment, everybody is connected, and they all teleport to the woods between worlds. And then in the woods between worlds, everybody goes into a different pool that they think will take them to the city of Charn. And it does not. And quite frankly, it does the opposite. It actually brings them to a dark world. They're standing on the ground, and it's a blank world. And they discover a lion. And this lion, they don't know who it is. He's in the distance, but he causes the summoning of the sun and the rolling hills being created. And yeah, it's kind of exciting. It's the beginning of the creation of the world of Narnia. Now, they don't say that, but so far, up to chapter 9, which is the one we're covering today, so far just the sun has risen and the stars have been sprinkled into the sky, being created. So that's where we are currently. And now we are in chapter 9, and the name of that chapter is The Founding of Narnia. So this is a pretty exciting chapter. And to sum it up in short, so keep in mind, we have Jadis, the witch, is with them. Uncle Andrew is there. Diggory, Polly, the cabbie driver, and Strawberry, the cabbie driver's horse. So those people are all present. And then there's also the lion. And in this chapter, the lion goes about creating... Gosh, I'm going to read some excerpts from the chapter. But basically, he creates the world, grows everything, and brings everything to life. And he brings to life some animals, and he creates a select circle of animals to which he's going to do something in chapter 10 to give them the ability to speak. But basically, he creates an inner circle of animals and just brings everything to life. And in the midst of all this, Uncle Andrew is kind of on the team with Janice, but then he turns against her, and he's just mad at her because she's been mistreating him. She's very mean to him, and so Uncle Andrew realizes, from a human perspective, how he can take advantage of this world of things that are growing to life. He's thinking, if you can grow all these things, we can grow battleships, we can grow weapons, we can grow all these things, and he can make it into a world of he can benefit from and make money out of, and invite people from London to come and pay money, and so he can make a lot of money out of this world. And he wants to kill the lion because he feels the lion is evil, and Polly and Diggory are like on the opposite side. They're like, don't kill the lion. He's great. He's friendly. He's not evil. You're so deluded in your thinking, Uncle Andrew. You're a monster to want to kill him. And Jadis is a bit arrogant and the evil witch. She thinks she can take on the lion. And so she, when in the moment they had been brought from London to the woods between worlds, she had snapped off an iron bar from a lamp post in London. And this lamppost, iron bar, she picks it up, and the lion is getting closer, and Janice goes up to him, grabs the iron bar, and she hits him square between the eyes, straight on the nose, just on the bridge, right between it, with the full strength of what she can do. And guess what? The lion does not flinch. He does not change his pace. He continues walking around, At the same pace, he's not slowing down. There's no evidence of any damage on his head. And this terrifies Janice. And so Janice, the witch, screams in terror and runs away to the edge of a forest. And so now she is terrified of the lion. And I'm going to go ahead and read. So at the beginning, before any of those things took place, this is the beginning of the chapter, because I can't really describe the scenery of the world being created, but I'll read this so you guys can get a good idea. The lion was pacing to and fro about that empty land and singing his new song. It was softer and more lilting than the song by which he had called up the stars and the sun, a gentle, rippling music. And as he walked and sang, the valley grew green with grass. It spread out from the lion like a pool. It ran up the sides of the little hills like a wave. In a few minutes, it was creeping up the lower slopes of the distant mountains, making that young world every moment softer. The light wind could now be heard ruffling the grass. Soon there were other things besides grass. The higher slopes grew dark with heather. Patches of rougher and more bristling green appeared in the valley. Diggory did not know what they were until one began coming up quite close to him. It was a little spiky thing that threw out dozens of arms and covered these arms with green and grew larger at the rate of about an inch every 2 seconds. There were dozens of these things all around him now. When they were nearly as tall as himself, he saw what they were. Trees, he exclaimed. So that just gives you some good imagery of it's a pool rippling, just all this cool stuff happening. And going back to the part where I mentioned the iron bar, where Jadis had smacked the lion in the face, and then the iron bar just ricocheted off of him and fell on the ground. And so they realized later something had grown where that iron bar had landed on the ground. The iron bar got sucked into the ground, and then out of it came sprinkling a young lamppost. And as they were talking, this lamppost was growing, and then the fire in the lamppost lit. And so not only is this lion able to create the earth, the flowers, the animals, the stars, the sun, the rolling hills, the mountains, the landscape, the water, the rivers, not only is he able to create those things, but he's able to spring life from an iron bar that grows a lamppost. And that's just absolutely insane. And then there's one more part that I wanted to read. And this is the part that is when the lion is creating the animals. And I can't describe how he did it, but I'll just read it because that's easier. Can you imagine a stretch of grassy land bubbling like water in a pot? For that is really the best description of what was happening. In all directions, it was swelling into humps. They were of very different sizes, some no bigger than molehills, some as big as wheelbarrows, two the size of cottages, and the humps moved and swelled till they burst, and they crumbled earth, and the crumbled earth poured out of them. And from each hump there came out an animal. The moles came out just as you might see a mole come out in England. The dogs came out, barking the moment their heads were free, and struggling as you've seen them do when they are getting through a narrow hole in a hedge. The stags were the queerest to watch, for of course the antlers came up a long time before the rest of them, so at first Diggory thought they were trees. The frogs, who all came up near the river, went straight into it with a plop-plop and a loud croaking. The panthers, leopards, and things of that sort sat down at once to wash in the loose earth front claws. Showers of birds came out of the trees. Butterflies fluttered. Bees got to work on the flowers as if they hadn't a second to lose. But the greatest moment of all was the biggest hump broke like a small earthquake, and out came the sloping back, the large wise head, and the four baggy trouser legs of an elephant. And now you could hardly hear the song of the lion. There was so much cawing and cooing, crowing, braying, neighing, baying, barking, lowing, bleating, and trumpeting. So as you can see, there's a lot of beautiful creation happening in this chapter. And in all of it, there's music, the sounds of the lion singing, and just a choir, a symphony of music, glorious, and it's beautiful. And it's just kind of, it's amazing. But the chapter ends after he selects his animals that he wants to be on his inner circle. And then at the very end, I'll read the final part here. Then there came a swift flash like fire, but it burnt nobody, either from the sky or from the lion itself, and every drop of blood tingled in the children's bodies, and the deepest, wildest voice they had ever heard was saying, Narnia, 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 awake, love, think, speak. Be walking trees, be talking beasts, be divine waters. And that ends chapter 9. All right. So that was amazing. I really like that chapter. And chapter 10 will be the next one. I'm thinking of doing one maybe once every 2 weeks. I feel that's a good way to do it. But yeah, if you guys liked it, give a like, leave a comment if you want this to keep going. But I think it's a good idea. And it keeps me reading things too. So if that's anything, guys, remember, this is Simmer over here, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Ciao.